Constitutional Amendment G establishes a right to abortion in the state constitution. This initiated amendment establishes a constitutional right to an abortion and provides a legal framework for the regulation of abortion. This framework overrides existing laws and regulations concerning abortion. The amendment establishes that during the first trimester, a pregnant person's decision to obtain an abortion may not be regulated, nor may regulation be imposed on the carrying out of an abortion. In the second trimester, the amendment allows the regulation of a pregnant woman's abortion decision and the regulation of carrying out an abortion. Any regulation of a decision or of an abortion during the second trimester must be reasonably related to the physical health of the pregnant woman. In the third trimester, the amendment allows the regulation or prohibition of abortion except in those cases where the abortion is necessary to preserve the life or health of the pregnant woman. The decision at this point is determined by the physician's medical judgment. A vote yes will adopt this into the state constitution. A no vote will leave the constitution as is. Speaking in favor of Amendment G is Nancy Turbak, chair of the Coalition for Freedom Amendment G. Speaking in opposition is Caroline Woods, the spokesperson for the Life Defense Fund. Alicia Garcia from KOTA TV and DWU student Megan Hutchison will ask the questions. You may begin.
Thank you. I'll ask the first two questions, and then Megan will ask the next two questions. The first question goes to Nancy Turbak. Amendment G does not take into consideration the viability of the fetus or whether or not life begins during the 9 months of gestation. What do you tell the South Dakotans who believe that life begins before birth?
Thank you for the question. For decades, this issue has been discussed in terms of when life begins. In some sense, that's an artificial question because obviously the egg and the sperm are alive even before they join. But certainly there are people who feel that once an egg is fertilized, that fertilized egg deserves the same protections as every one of us that's walking, living, and breathing. And to those people, I would say, I respect your opinion and I respect your values, and no one should ever force you or your family member that shares those values to have an abortion. But many people do not agree with that. Many people believe that there are various circumstances under which abortion is reasonable medical care and should be an option available. In the case of rape and incest, for example, or in a situation where there's a fatal fetal anomaly and a healthy child will never be viable. Amendment G has to do with who makes those decisions. The proponents of Amendment G believe that those are personal decisions the government ought not make, that we believe individuals, women, girls, their families, couples should make their own decisions. Just as no one would force someone to have an abortion, we believe no one should be forced to give birth.
You may respond.
Yes, so Amendment G is a radical, inhumane amendment here that, first of all, strips parental rights. Second of all, allows abortion up till birth for nearly any reason. And number three, it rids all health and safety protections for women. This takes us back to the dark ages, you guys, and this is a dangerous amendment for women and children all across our state. I am so proud to be a mother here in South Dakota who stands for women, who wants to protect women, and this amendment actually rids all of those health and safety protections we already have in the books. This includes things like having a clean and safe environment to have any kind of medical procedure. It also entails having informed consent laws. It protects women by notifying their parents if a rapist or a sex trafficker is coming in and forcing or coercing a daughter to have an abortion. I am here to say that this is an inhumane, radical abortion amendment allowing abortion up till birth for nearly any reason. And let me just tell you this, the U.S. Supreme Court defined health to include all factors. This includes things like It says physical, emotional, psychological, familial, and a woman's age. This means for nearly any reason an abortion doctor can justify an abortion. As a mother who had a high-risk pregnancy, I could have justified abortion for any reason under Amendment G, and that's really unacceptable here.
That's absolutely not true. Nothing that has been said is true. Parental rights are not changed by this. There will still be a need for parental consent for an abortion if the patient is a minor. Abortion up to birth is a slogan. It's not a reality. It doesn't exist. If a woman is approaching term and for some reason her health or safety requires that the pregnancy end, a doctor doesn't abort a fetus. They deliver the baby. And it's absolutely false to say that this amendment would eliminate all safety regulations. That's absolutely not true. South Dakota has blanket regulations that apply to physicians and clinics. Those would still be in place.
The next question goes to you, Carolyn. The law as it stands now in South Dakota, and which would be the law of the land if Amendment G does not pass, says that an abortion is only allowed when necessary to preserve the life of the pregnant female. What guidance do doctors have to ensure that they don't violate this? How can they know what this language means in the real medical world?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So for someone who actually had a miscarriage more recently, and for someone who has had a sister who almost died of an ectopic pregnancy, I'm here to tell you that the abortion lobby is lying to all of you guys. A doctor should use their sound medical judgment to make decisions based off of law. And every single state who has pro-life laws like ours has an exception for the life of the mother, and it's very clear that you save the life of the mother. There are stories being touted all across the nation saying, oh, these, pro-life measures are, destroying women and hurting them. No, that is not the case. Any doctor with any kind of sound medical judgment will not ever harm a woman. They will attend to her needs immediately, just like my sister got care, just like I have gotten care. This is something from the abortion lobby that they have continued to tout and lie to the American people, especially here in South Dakota. And in this Amendment G, it's actually going to rid all health and safety protections. And I'm holding up the language verbatim. As my opponent had mentioned, it does not rid any health and safety protections. Well, that's in fact not true. It says, before the end of the first trimester, the state may not regulate a pregnant woman's abortion decision and its effectuation, which basically means to bring about an abortion. There is zero protections for women. Parental right notifications, out the window. Informed consent, out the window. Your daughter comes in as a minor who has been raped and now has a sex trafficker telling her that she has to get an abortion, out the window. You as a parent don't get to know. We have laws in the books that protect women, and this does the opposite.
None of that is true. Doctors in South Dakota today face a felony if they act too quickly to try to treat a woman who is in need of an abortion. They are confused about what care can legally be given to women who are having problems, whether it's a miscarriage or some other less common difficulty with pregnancy. And doctors deserve to be able to practice their profession without the threat of a felony conviction hanging over their heads. There are all sorts of regulations that apply generally to all health care. You must be a physician, for example, to practice medicine. You must get parental consent if you're going to treat a minor. Those regulations are not gone. Those are just boogeymen that the opponents have cooked up to try to scare vulnerable voters. This amendment is taken from a framework that was established by 7 old wise men on the Supreme Court in 1973, most of them appointed by Eisenhower or Nixon. To claim that it's extreme or radical is totally disingenuous.
This next question is for Nancy. How will Amendment G coexist with South Dakota's current abortion ban? Would South Dakota's abortion ban be completely repealed?
Yes. South Dakota has one of the most extreme abortion bans in the nation. There is no exception for rape and incest, even though we have one of the worst rates of rape in the country. It's estimated that there are about 800 rape-related pregnancies in South Dakota every year. But there's no exception under our current ban. There's no exception for the health of the mother. under South Dakota's current law. There's no exception for anything unless the doctor feels confident that the woman is so close to death that an abortion is necessary to save her life. That ban will be completely repealed by the amendment. And I'll tell you why it's in the constitutional amendment form. Because South Dakota voters twice before have told the legislature with the statewide election that they don't want this ban. They voted it out in 2006 and again in 2008, but the legislature won't listen. It keeps ignoring the will of the people and adopting a radical position that reflects the view of some very extremist politicians. So this will put it into the Constitution so the legislature can't ignore it the way they have in the past.
Can I respond? Yes. So under Amendment G, you actually don't have to be a doctor to perform an abortion. It would actually allow black market abortions to be happening. And the language right here, any lawyer should know that this allows abortion up to through all 9 months, and during the first trimester, there is no regulations, zero, which means you don't have to be a doctor, you don't have to have any kind of experience to give an abortion, and this puts women in great danger. It opens the black market for abortions. There's zero ways, as Nancy actually just pointed out, zero way for the legislature to even go and help these women. And mind you, Planned Parenthood doesn't help with miscarriage. They don't help with ectopic pregnancies. They don't help with any of those things, and as they claim to be helping women. This doesn't help women. This hurts women. And I have my friend Dr. Patty Giebink, who is a former abortion doctor, and she can tell you that Planned Parenthood and the abortion lobby is not here to help women. They're here to hurt women. They're here to pad their wallets because they want abortion up to birth. This means a 6-week-old child in the womb who has a heartbeat and we can detect it will be aborted. This means a 12-week-old who can feel pain will be aborted. This means
10 seconds.
A child that's about to be born can also be aborted for almost nearly any reason. That is something that's inhumane, and it's atrocious to be something in the Constitution here in South Dakota.
Nancy, I know you want to respond,
Okay.
but we want to get to other questions.
Okay.
Yep, this has to be our last question before closing statements.
We have one more question. Time prevents us from really going further, unfortunately. This goes to you, Caroline. How does the state enforce the abortion law currently in place in South Dakota? Will and does it access medical records of women in order to ensure that medical professionals are complying with the law?
Yeah, so right now, actually, our Secretary of Health did a fantastic video clarifying our current laws. I know Nancy had just mentioned that doctors are very confused. Well, I'm here to tell you that if they're confused about saving the life of a mother and attending to her, then they should have their medical license revoked. That's absolutely atrocious for any doctor to not know what to do to save the life of a mother. So I think that's one for very clear. Two, here in South Dakota, we are here protecting women. We are here to examine what their needs are. And I'll just tell you right now, Amendment G does not attend to any health care needs. It hurts women dearly. As far as anything medically related, they won't get the help that they need. The black market will come here. There will not be doctors, mind you, that will have to give an abortion, given the fact that most abortions happen the first trimester, and that's why we have here the Wild West, where no medical intervention, and we'll be leaving women here to die, to have infections, to have no care. As Nancy and the group have pointed out, they want to save people. Well, they're not. This is actually doing the opposite of that.
We need
It's
to move
amazing.
into closing statements. You'll have, oh, I'm sorry.
I can't respond to this?
I apologize. Yep.
All right. It's amazing to me that the opponents want to criticize doctors and insult them so badly and suggest that all they have to do is watch the video. South Dakota's law is so ambiguous as to the care doctors can safely and legally give women that at the end of the video that the Department of Health put out, they ended it with a disclaimer and told doctors don't rely on this. Moreover, none of the statements in here are legally binding. The state itself can't explain and is not confident with its explanation of South Dakota's abortion law. We do know that you have to be a doctor. It's nonsense to suggest otherwise. All medical care in South Dakota is requires that you have a medical license. It's a crime to practice medicine without a license. And this nonsense about all 9 months is just that. For 52 years, it has been legal in South Dakota to perform an abortion throughout the entire pregnancy to save the life of a woman. For 50 of those years, it was legal to perform an abortion throughout pregnancy to save her health or her life. There has never, in 52 years, been an abortion at or near birth. That's just a slogan, a gruesome nonsense that these folks have cooked up to try to scare voters.
We'll now move to that 1-minute closing statement. Nancy Turbak, you go first. 1 minute.
Thank you. South Dakota's current abortion ban is extreme. It denies relief to victims of rape and incest. Last night in Sioux Falls, I talked to an OBGYN that told me her youngest rape patient that she treated for pregnancy was 9 years old, a third grader with a teddy bear. In South Dakota, such a victim has to carry her child to term. Doctors fear of felony prosecution if they step over the line and take care of people too soon if they're having a miscarriage or some other pregnancy complication. Women, couples, and families should make the decision, not the government. And that's why we have a big coalition. We have Doctors for Freedom, Lawyers for Freedom, and earlier this week, 35 clergy leaders joined us and said, Clergy Leaders for Freedom. The constitutional amendment is needed to get rid of our extreme abortion ban. It's time the people take the power. The legislature won't respect, they never have, and so we need to adopt a constitutional protection to take us back to the days we had for 50 years under Roe versus Wade. That's all this amendment does. And I urge you to get us back to at least that sane territory that for 50 years we had until 2022. Vote for Amendment G.
Caroline Woods, 1 minute, closing.
Yes, I know a lot of different people have different opinions on when abortion should be legal, but I'm here to tell you Amendment G goes too far, it's too inhumane, and it's too radical. Under Roe v. Wade, as my opponent has been touting, the fact of the matter is it was only legal up to 22 weeks, and most of them didn't happen until, I think, even before 15 weeks. And this is not the case with this amendment. This amendment goes terribly too far. This is the amendment right here. You can go to lifedefensefund.com and view it yourself. This is what the laws would say, and it's very vaguely written. It's poorly written. Talk about confusing doctors. This is not a good amendment. This is vague. This will open the black market up for people to have abortions. It will be unsafe. It will be unclean. It doesn't have to be inspected. That's a dangerous place to put mothers like me in those kinds of positions. And I'd be ashamed if our state condoned that kind of behavior. I'm here to tell you that babies should have a chance. At 6 weeks, they have a heartbeat. At 12 weeks, they can feel pain. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want any baby feeling pain. That's inhumane. And at 21 weeks, they can survive outside the mother's womb. So I'm here to tell you this is too radical, this is too far, it's on par with North Korea and China's policies on abortion, and it also gives us, our unborn babies, less rights than animals have right now. Thank you.
That's our time for Amendment G. Thank you to our